Welcome to a Grunts Perspective, a non-scripted, free-flow podcast addressing a range of topics from a Grunts perspective. Grunts Perspective is not limited to those who have served, but a perspective of those who are knee-deep in grunt-like work. The blue collar, the worker bee, the ones in the trenches of everyday existence trying to make sense of it all. Our aim is to garner, by example, a support system that is predicated on mental health and a safe place to vent about topics pertaining to everyday life. The battle buddy mentality, as it were. No topic is taboo, and all perspectives are taken into account. So welcome, sit back with your choice beverage, and let's dive in. How's it going?
We're here.
We're pushing forward, exactly. And that's the topic of today, episode 1, charging forward. What is your motivation? What drives you on to just to get up in the morning to do what needs to be done? And what is your driving force? You know, for me, I have to say, having a family, being present alone. And it's not just being present for that individual, but trying to find time for being present for yourself. That's the first thing for me.
Those are two major subjects right off the hop.
Yeah. And just contending
I feel like those that instantly have a family, or not instantly have a family, but those that have a family instantly have that push and drive and reason to get out of bed every day. It's a lot easier as grunts I got to do this for someone else.
Yeah.
I got to pay the bills. I got to pay the rent. I got to put a roof over our head. Doing it for yourself is the question. And that's the challenge.
And it's hard. It's like everyone's worrying about financial security. Everyone's worrying about, just to survive. The economic climate that we live in right now, everything is wrong. Nothing is right. And some people will say, I'm already going to go out of the gate right here. When do we get to use the guns? But, metaphorically, of course.
Sure.
Quote. It doesn't matter what allegiance you have. You need to have allegiance to yourself and those around you first. And that's why, to me, friendship means as much, if not more, than family. Because family, you have family, and then you cannot have family. But you have to choose friends.
You choose your family.
Yeah, and they become your adopted family. And that becomes the strongest sense of relationship. So to me, motivation is like being back in the military. Motivation for me is pulling from your peers. And they help pick you up. And if they're not picking you up, then they are not your friends. They're not your family. I've told immediate family bye.
Yeah.
Because it's not from my personal perspective of I'm not getting enough out of it. It's just I'm not getting the support I need, or I can give and give and give and give.
You can give all day to somebody, and it doesn't matter how much you give to them, as long as at the end of the day when you need them and you need that support, they're there.
No.
You can not talk to a guy for 2 years, but when you call them up at 3 a.m, are they there?
Mm-hmm.
That's what matters.
Yeah. It's that 3 a.m. phone call.
Exactly.
Not necessarily a booty call. Not necessarily.
It's what you need, though.
It's what you need at the time, regardless. So my question to you is, what is your motivation? What keeps you waking up every day and just to get out of bed?
I feel like that the honest answer is I don't know at this moment.
Right.
There are some days where I wake up, and the only reason I go into work is because of my work battle buddy, and I got to be there for him.
Yeah.
So because we spend all day on the phone together, and we work in our own trucks, and we're not directly coworkers, but you find your coworkers and you sit on the phone with them all day.
Yeah.
And man, when that battle buddy's not with you, and you're not sitting on the phone with them all day, there are times where I wake up and I'm like, no, as much as I don't want to, I got to go in for my boy.
So back up a sec. So what is it that you do for a living?
I drive a tow truck.
You're a hooker.
I'm a hooker. I'm hooked on hooking.
So People rely on you, and that's another thing. They're in that moment of need. They need a tow truck. Car broke down, or there's an accident, and you are in that moment. That saving grace. In that self, is that enough of a reward for you to motivate you to do your job?
No.
Why?
After a decade of doing the industry, the general public,
Yeah.
not my concern.
So you're jaded by the general public.
The general public is the reason why I got into the job, was to help people and do what I could. After dealing with the general public for a decade, I show up to work every day so I can support my brother in dealing with the general public every day.
I hear you. So that's essentially that anyone who's a frontline worker, you know, from medics, paramedics to people at fucking Starbucks.
Yeah, I was
Like,
gonna say retail workers.
I mean,
They
they get
gotta
the
face the
brunt.
worst.
Yeah, they face the worst. And it's funny because like when I first came to this country, my only option was working at Starbucks, which was kind of the worst. I wanted to like, you know, pour hot coffee on myself every day, you know, and get a lawsuit or something. Because that would be the easiest way to endure the day.
Of course, the Yank shows up to Canada. How do I sue somebody?
Exactly. That is the Grunts mentality. No, that is the mentality of, that's a whole other topic, to be honest, the easy way out. But no, you stick with it. You try to do it and you're in support of others and yourselves. But then that in itself is like a weird ego check, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, this is the job I'm doing. This is my place in the world.
But you know you're better than it and you can do more.
Absolutely. So you still charge forward.
And is that not, for those that are doing that job,
Yeah.
and we thank you,
Yeah.
the biggest grunt out there are those that are waking up every day to do the job they know they're better than.
100%. Because we're victims of circumstance. I mean, maybe there's not something out there. But then you have to look in yourself, and I think that's what we want to do with the Grunts Perspective, is to provide motivational ways you can change your outlook. You know, you have to trick your mind to thinking that something is real or tangible, and you have to try. You can't just settle. You know, that goes for relationships, that goes for perspective on to go. I mean, that's a whole other topic, which we definitely will get to the gist of. So my question is, besides motivation and driving force, what is your lowest point? And what pulled you out of it? I know, it's going to cut deep.
Yeah, it sucks. COVID, we'll
Yeah.
sum it up as that. A lot of people went through a lot of shit that they never expected or never anticipated in their life, or stuff they never dreamed of.
Yeah.
For me, it was my future wife walking out the door with my son and vanishing.
Fuck.
Yeah. How to get up back on the horse after that? Like I said at the start of this, it's no disrespect to those that wake up every morning pushing for their family, but it's a lot easier when they're in your house. But at the end of the day, I guess my driving force is, I'm not a religious person, but I let go and I let God. Is the best way I can put it. Is that my son will come back when he is ready to come back, and everything is out of my control and his control because of the justice system and how they view men, and we won't get into that right now, but nonetheless, it's kind of out of my control. So I let go and I let God, and I wake up every day pushing forward to be the best person I can be, and to hopefully, when the time comes that he is ready to find me after all the effort I've put in, that I'll be steady and ready for him. And that's,
Wow.
you know, my pray, my move forward is it'll happen one day.
Yeah.
So I can give up and live in a ditch and smoke some crack and enjoy the sunshine every single day and not go to work. That sounds great. Or I can wake up every single day and push a life forward and build what I can with or without him here.
Yeah. And that's a fine example because, like, whatever the situation is, you know, the cause and effect of it is, but it's surviving with the means in between. It's moving from that moment, and if you better yourself, and you continue on, I think that's a good example for him down the line.
I hope so.
I hope so
I mean,
for you.
it's not something I can know or tell until it happens. And to answer your previous question is how I push forward. It was some of my boys that when I called them, and there was one of them I called 30 minutes after she left, and the phone call consisted of, "I need you," click.
Yeah.
30 minutes later, the guy was at my house. Lives 40 minutes away. 30
Yeah.
minutes later, he's at my house.
Yeah.
So the battle buddy mentality, no matter if you're in battle or if you're just facing day to day, you need your battle buddies.
Yeah.
And those that are there at the 3 a.m. phone calls, the 3 p.m. phone calls, if they answer the phone when you say "I need you" and there's no context and that person shows up, those are the people you need in your life that can help push you forward and help give you that motivation in your weakest and darkest and lost times. It's I don't know what I would do without those people in my life. I don't know where I'd be without those people in my life. That was my deepest and darkest moment, and if it wasn't for those people, I genuinely don't know.
Yeah. And if for those that are listening that are find themselves in that situation, what if they don't have that? Like, what is the advice that you can give them, or what's the perspective you can give them? It's like, I have nothing or no one, and they are at the edge of that proverbial rope. Exactly.
Reminding them they're not alone. And I think a lot of people don't understand the people they have with them. They don't know necessarily, they might not want to make that phone call. They might not think that person will answer the phone.
Yeah.
They haven't made that phone call in their life to know that person's there for them. So that reach out is the harder thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're in that vulnerable state and you're like, what do I do? And just having the ability or the foresight and willingness to call and reach out. I mean, that's like the first step. Who did you call?
Dude, Sasquatch.
Bring him on.
We're Squatch. So, I'm not going to give too many details.
Yeah.
Essentially, the day she left, I woke up on the floor with her gone. Don't know necessarily what transpired because I woke up unconscious. And I just called the Sasquatch here. And literally the phone call was, "I need you now."
Yeah.
I think I might have said "come over," but it was click. It was that fast. "I need you now. Come over," or click. And like I said, 30 minutes later, the guy was there. And just...
It may have been stretched out a bit. It was like a 30-second and then it was just, nope, it's go time. Something's wrong. Something like, you just felt it. I saw the phone call and just something felt wrong. I answered it. Something just felt wrong. And Dave, when I went through shit with a past relationship and felt so broken, Dave was there, and it's just one of those moments where you just feel connected over so many different aspects, just communication, working together, working through stuff together. You just sort of feel like an energy towards you, just sort of like, I need to call Dave today. Something not always bad. It's just like, hey, I just need to call him. We haven't talked in a bit. And that day I just felt it. And I was like, no, I need to go. Look at the wife.
And as I remember, you were at the park with your wife and kid.
Yeah.
And you dropped everything and just left and just came to get me because you knew. Yeah, like you said, you just sensed it.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Yeah, it was before when my daughter was born, but it was still like, yeah. It was,
you were with the dog, sorry.
Yeah, the dog. Yeah,
your first baby.
The expensive $1 million baby.
I told you not to get.
Fuck. Oh shit. Sorry.
Oh no.
I think I just looked at my fiance at that time, and I just said, hey, I think Dave needs to stay on our couch. I'm sorry, I'm not taking no for an answer. Like, this has to happen. And she just looked at me and she says, if you need to go. It's fine. And went and grabbed Dave, and Dave was like, no, I'll be fine at home. And I'm like, no, dude, you're getting your ass up. You're getting out of this place. Like, there's just a negative energy you need away from you. There's a space that I need to give you, a safe place or a place just to process. and just not be alone.
I genuinely don't even remember that conversation.
You fought me. You're like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine.
Of course.
What
I'm
do we
fine.
do as
I'm,
men, right?
I'm literally grabbing his bag and packing. I'm like, okay, what do you need? Socks, underwear, deodorant. What do you need? Like, let's go. Dragging him out, and I just said, okay, what do you need? What do we need to get? Do you need food? Do you need some beer? Do you need some? What do you need?
Yeah.
What can I get you right now, dude? Like, we're driving. I've got you. I've got my. I'm not letting go. Like, if you decide to get out of the car somewhere, you're going in the fucking trunk. And in that moment of just anxiety, panic attack, just your world is quite literally crumbling. And being neurodivergent, it's so hard to just accept help.
Yeah.
There's so many people out there with neurodivergence just feel they don't deserve anything good they have. There's always this, it's not good enough, or I'm not deserving of nice things. And there's always that suppression. So just the fact of the willing of someone is actually there to help you almost breaks you mentally, that you're not alone.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes you give your battle buddy a hug and it just goes,
Yeah.
and every emotion just
Yeah,
from that connection
flows
of a
right through.
hug.
Yeah.
And like you said, with just not having anybody, just don't be afraid to hug your friends.
Or
Don't be
ask.
afraid to tell your friends you love them.
Yeah.
It's so much emotion is tied that it's, oh, you just tell your life partner that. It's no, tell your friends that. Tell
Or-
your family. Let people know that you give a shit about them. Those neighbors, you're like, yeah, they're great neighbors, but go over and talk to them. Yeah, I had that conversation the other day. Had a rough morning with my wife and my daughter, and I just looked at my neighbor. He just set up a little aluminum boat, and his wife was helping and did not look happy about it. I'm like, I'm going to go talk to my neighbor. I've been living across the street from this guy, and I've maybe ever had 5 conversations. I'm going to go talk to him. And I just started opening up, and he just started opening up, and it was just the talk you didn't know you needed to have. But it's the anxiety of, what do I talk about?
Just anything.
Nothing.
Just vomit.
Yeah.
Or just be in the presence.
Yeah.
Because it was just the stuff that I was going through, and kids are much older, but he still has the same communication issues with his children, and that I'm also having as well. It's just a different aspect of the age, but it's still, we're all just struggling to communicate with each other.
Yeah.
Half the time people get offended or upset is because they've misunderstood what were the intentions of how things were worded.
Do you also think that's perhaps like a society role for men? You know, we've gone from like the 1920s to the 1950s to where men are supposed to be the strong, silent type, not in touch with their feelings. You have a particular job, you go to work, you come home, provide for the family, and then we're told that we need to express ourselves. But then we do. No one wants to listen.
That's
Well, and I think this is a perfect example of that battle where he's saying, and I don't remember, I don't know if that was concussion or I blocked it out or
no,
what.
that was
But
PTSD, kid.
where-
You were blackout, essentially, just blackout. You did.
He's saying I'm fighting him on leaving home.
Yeah.
I did the right thing, and I reached out to my battle buddy.
Yeah.
And then I went, okay, cool, thanks for the hug, don't need you. That's
That's
it.
it.
That's my, okay, yep, I'm going to be a man again, just
Yeah.
push forward.
Yeah.
And battle buddy goes, no.
Yeah.
You need more.
I think I
need
said
more.
to you, it's okay to be broken.
I genuinely
And
don't
that
remember.
is when I think that's what I finally got you out of the house with, because that broke you. I don't mean to speak bad, but you finally, that wall of emotion that had been suppressed for so long, just saying it's okay to be broken, and I gave you a hug. It almost makes me tear up again. It's as I know that feeling,
Here's how I feel.
Yeah.
and it was just sort of like what I had felt from my friends doing that for me, helping him unlock and feel safe to let that emotion out. I don't know if he's going to fight me. I don't know
Yeah.
if this, but man, I'm here. They're like, let's go through. And he just broke. And I'm like, there we go. Let's go. Not that I wanted you to break, but I just wanted you to know it was okay to break.
Which, again, is your point, is the battle we face internally with, are we old school? Are we new school? Is it okay to express ourselves? Are we allowed to? Is
Exactly
it-
what are we?
But as Mike said, right there is not being heard. A lot of times people don't understand when we communicate things, saying like, hey, when I tell an emotion, and then people say, oh, not to dismiss.
Yes.
Oh, not to do this. Oh,
Yes.
or find something that's valid. Hey, when I'm doing this and you do that, I feel like this frustrates me. But then if someone, a lot of times it's not just everybody. There's people don't understand how to not take fault, but just acknowledge fault. Like, oh, you cut someone off, just a simple wave. Hey, no, my bad, just a wave. And I find a lot of times lately, I don't know if it's just the times, the money, whatever, everybody's just very quick to, oh, why are you attacking? Why are you, instead of going, hey, why did you talk to me that way?
Yeah.
Everybody's ready to just have that battle. And I don't even care about fighting. I just want to just be like, hey, why did you talk to me that way? Okay, cool. Okay, I want to address the issue and I want to find a solution. I don't want to scream who's right.
Yeah.
I'm tired of it. Like, and a lot of times, and again, it's easy to pan up that emotion. You don't feel heard. I hold on to that emotion. I overthink that moment. The moment's passed. Nobody else has thought about it because they don't understand how I felt emotionally from that. But then until I talk about how I was affected emotionally, I keep holding on to that feeling. And ADHD, you notice patterns and recognition. So it's a lot of times like, well, I know I said this and I didn't feel heard. I didn't feel there was no open honesty of what the emotion was. Well, I'm not going to tell you about this next emotion. And then when finally it comes down to talk about something, it just goes, oh, I just don't want to talk about it. Or it ends up blowing up and then everybody goes, oh, you just dumped everything on me.
Yeah.
Well, if I can't talk about the small things, they're going to build. And again, for a lot of other people, it's harder for us because PTSD, we deal with a lot more trauma than the average Joe Blow out there. But again, it's not everybody's out there average. It's just everybody goes through different experiences, whether it be behind a desk in a white collar job. Like it's okay to have a hard life. It's okay to, not everybody's relationship is perfect. Not everybody's money situation is perfect. It's okay. Everybody can have emotions. It's not just blue collar workers, emergency services, first responders, everybody.
And that's another thing. It's like when I first met David, and then the topic of PTSD came up. I've always felt that
someone pulled a grenade on you, or
yeah, that's probably it too. But the whole aspect of PTSD, we often, I think, overuse it or we underutilize that term. And then for the longest time, I thought PTSD only applied to veterans, you know? And I felt PTSD, okay, did I actually go through PTSD? But then you look at childhood trauma and all these things. These are all the same thing. It's PTSD, but it's in so many different forms. And I'm like, okay, well, that's this. I can put that in a box, chalk it up to that experience, you know, whether it's childhood abuse and whatnot, relationship, you know, and then you can easily rationalize, oh, I just wasn't loved enough by, you know, my stepmother.
But it's not even physical, it's emotional too.
Exactly.
And it's just everybody thinks, oh, traumatic parenthood is only when you get hit. No,
yeah, no.
It can be how you're emotionally, if you're just told with what to do, when to do it with no rhyme or reason, you don't understand why. You're always fixated by these rules.
So on that note, I want to throw the question back to you on being told what to do, when to do, without any question on it. What is your lowest moment there, Senior Grunt?
Lowest moments. You'll have to give me a decade because I feel like I've had a low moments almost my entire existence. And I'm going to tell you a story I've never told anyone. The first time I ever felt my lowest is childhood abuse. I was angry with my stepmom. We used to live upstairs, you know, 2-story duplex. Grandma and grandpa lived downstairs. Her parents, not.
This is
not
on a
my
farm,
parents.
yeah?
No. This is in New York. This is in New York. My stepmom parents lived downstairs. We lived upstairs in New York. And she was like the typical, like, you look up the definition of stepmom, Disney stories, Wicked Witch, abusive.
Modern stepmom or 1980 stepmom?
Say, don't look up stepmom and then expect.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to make fun of an emotion, but I just want to know what the Google search is later.
Through, though.
So,
where was that stepmom?
So this is like Disney style stepmom, wicked, witch, everything, abusive. She used to put on rings right before she used to slap me around, essentially. So I was angry because I got like a 65. And this is back when we actually graded children on mathematics and scholastic things. That's a whole other topic. Yeah, no ribbon. So I got a 65 on a math thing. She got it furious, smacked me a bunch of times. Not asked me what was the problem or anything like that. Try to get to the solution, anything like that. No kind of logic, just typical. Exactly. Yeah. And she smacked the crap out of me, sent me to bed without dinner. 30, 40 minutes went by, maybe an hour. And I hear Grandma screaming. I still remember her voice to this day, her tone, everything. She was mortified. She was screaming, Terry, my stepmom, your father fell. Please help. Your father. I'm like, angry 8-year-old kid. I'm like, fuck that. I'm not going to relay that message. And then she did it again. 30 minutes went by. She runs up, knocks on the back door because the way the house was designed, there's a staircase in between the 2 floors. She knocked on the door. My stepmom's in the kitchen making dinner which I can't eat. So I'm like, fuck that. And this woman at this point, she's probably in her late 60s. So just an effort to run from the basement because Grandpa loved to smoke, watch John Wayne movies, real man's man from the 40s. Battle of the Bulge type guy.
Yeah.
You know?
Three
triple
whiskeys
hearts.
and don't talk about it.
Exactly. So I'm like, whatever, he fell. He'll make do. So Grandma, I can hear her, like her heavy lady breathing. Still nothing. I'm like stone cold, like 8 years old, like fuck you.
And there's a scream to a voice that you know is different.
Totally. So I hear her losing her breath, run back downstairs, runs across her apartment, comes up the other way, front door's locked. Your father fell. He's not breathing. She freaks out, dials 911. My dad, the soldier that he is, runs down there, starts working on him for an hour and a half before paramedics come, CPR. Had a heart attack. Paramedics come, they work on him for another 15, 20 minutes. He dies. You want to talk about fucking regret?
But you were 8 years old. Did you even know CPR at that point?
No, I didn't know CPR, but I knew what happened.
What'd you do?
Nothing. Nothing.
Sorry.
No, exactly. No, that's the whole point, that you have defining moments in your life. And there's 2 important things in your entire life. It is when you're born and finding out the reason why you're born. So you have defining moments throughout life. That was my lowest point because I let anger, frustration over something petty control me to a point where I said, fuck it. I know what's right and wrong, but I still did not do the right thing.
Anger's a son of a bitch.
It
And
is.
it's overpowering and controlling when you have it. It's anger is the hardest emotion to overcome, in my opinion. When you are angry, to try to pull yourself out of that is harder than when you are down, because your anger comes from fighting yourself going down.
Yeah.
But then I think the hardest part was learning why I was angry.
So, did you learn why you were angry? Did you forgive yourself? Do you still have that regret? Did you push forward and move on?
It defined me as a person moving forward.
See, the crude funny side of me here goes, is that why you became military?
Exactly. So,
Oh, you died. Let me make some.
exactly. So, moving from there.
But hold on.
Yeah.
I don't want to jump forward on you here. It's just, I think that was a pivotal moment of like that regret of like how of an action and stuff like that. And I've got quite a few like defining moments I've had that stuff. Like there's one day where my grandfather would have watched like one of his final soccer games of me playing, and I ended up being at the racetrack with my buddy, and it was just shit. I should have been there. There's so many regretful moments, but at some point you got to look at that and go, at that moment you do regret the choices, but what you have today is because you made those choices.
Right.
And that's the hardest part, is to just look at what you have now. Look at where you are now. From where you were either in high school or other things, you're still here today. There are people that aren't, that have lost that battle. So you got to turn around and just go, I'm still here. I'm still happy or healthy. Not really. I'm still health-ish and breathing.
Yeah.
I'm alive.
And it's like a lot of times it's hard to fight that battle, but I feel like we're such in a rat race where we forget to appreciate what we truly have. There's days I forget. I have one out, like one of the best friends anybody could ever ask for. And that we were so close to meeting each other like 6 or 7 years before we actually met each other. And it's just sort of, I have a friend like this in my life. Yeah, maybe I don't have very many of them, but I've got one damn good friend.
There's another son of a bitch sitting over there,
Oh yeah.
and I'm actually.
But my
gonna
ADHD,
throw
I forget about him.
Well, out of
It's
sight,
not
out of
that
mind.
I don't still don't love tagging. It's just I forget he exists. Out of sight, out of mind. He's in the fucking movie. He's always working night shift. You get weird snaps. But it's a lot of times it's tricky being a neurodivergence, but it's also hard. Was that neurodivergence caused by childhood trauma?
Yeah.
But again, it's as much as I want to blame on my mom for the emotional trauma, conditional love, all this other shit, my complete failed marriage, because I thought what I mirrored was my parents' relationship, which was extremely toxic. But again, if I didn't go through every choice I made, an ex-wife used to beat the shit out of me just to try to get me to swing so she'd call the cops on me.
So my asshole grunt side wants to go. You started the conversation about your family with abusive PTSD.
Yeah.
So were you really mad that he died, or like?
Because you fear that so much you don't want to repeat it.
No, exactly. And so I was upset that he
was her
died because I felt that I was the one who was responsible. No, it was actually the fact that he smoked like 3-4 like cigars a day and
bottles of
A-like
bourbon.
stuff, bourbon, exactly. And just living in a cold, damp basement downstairs because he wanted to lock himself away.
Well, look at the battle he was fighting.
Exactly.
Well,
And that's the hard things we forget when we look back at just other veterans.
Yeah.
You don't look at them, you just, oh, well, whatever. Just the Vietnam vets.
Yeah.
How many of those guys just couldn't even talk about it?
No, and that's
that's-
another thing too, is that I had a man that was downstairs that survived the Battle of the Bulge. He was a tanker during that time frame. And then my old man, my dad, he's a Vietnam vet, 3 tours.
Yeah.
And we have that long-standing tradition throughout my entire family, so that when I got in trouble during my teenage years, I always think back to that pivotal moment. I let him die, but also want to keep on tradition as well. So I was a shoo-in because I was raised by a drill instructor, essentially, to go military, to live that regimental way
was
of
that
life.
order? It was that there was strict rules as a kid. There was, I guess schedules, repetition.
Yes.
Things repetitive, and that's where a lot of our childhood. Okay, well, I need to do this. I need to wake up at the same time. This I need to. Everything goes in a cycle, and that's where ADHD people thrive.
I mean, that's why they say most of the military's somewhere on the TISM.
Yeah.
They need that regiment.
Yes.
Trains.
And crayons.
But it's
So-
also what you have today with your family. It's like you survived all that. You made all that,
Yeah.
and you may feel bad about life, but it's your family's happy. Your family's healthy.
Yeah.
You're in what used to be a great country, and that's a hard to look at, but
That's the truth.
but you're still here.
Yeah.
Before we dive further, I'd like to bring NPOG in and another battle buddy work veteran of mine that so we didn't mention, but me and Graham met when I changed companies, and Graham was the
Oh, you're a
person
baby.
who trained me. We met, but you were an asshole.
I don't hang out with this.
Graham had
Get back
decided
to White Rock.
at that point he was just going to do him and be himself and ignore everyone else in life. And quite literally, I pulled up beside him in another tow truck and was like, "What's up, brother?" And he was like, "Who the hell are you? Get away from me." And then drove off. And then like 3 years later, I showed up at his company and he was training me and he was like, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Because we became good
Yeah.
friends.
Or just like-
Pre you training me though, Tegan trained me.
Yep.
And to talk
That's
about
why I had to retrain you.
talk about the blue collar battle buddy and the Grunts perspective. I mean, we're all truckers, and we all met behind a steering wheel.
And in one of the hardest industries too, where quite literally everybody hates you. And
So-
then it goes and you go, oh, this feels like where I should be. This feels normal. And then we're all this retarded pack of crayons over here.
You get just the right amount of abuse in there.
Yeah.
So with all due respect, Graham, or Squatch, I want to kick you out, and I want
Okay.
to bring NPOG in. Because as someone that can't pull out and has 27 children, we need to hear your lowest point.
So while we're switching up here, I'll read up a little bit of statistics here on recent studies in military personnel who experience PTSD.
Yeah.
50 peer review article states that people who had PTSD from childhood trauma are more likely to get PTSD as a, if once you sign up as a military personnel.
More likely.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So in any cases here, there's going to be improved training and as well as aptitude tests to address vulnerabilities, to address these issues, right? Because you have to spot them at the very beginning.
So that's interesting because, like, when I applied for a particular job, they went through psychological evals and everything, and after Indoc and all that, I passed with flying colors. Maybe it's because you have to have that partial sociopath thing. Like, no, nothing ever happened bad to me. You're driving forward. You're like, yeah, nothing's wrong. Nothing ever bad happened to me. But then they still wonder what's that little spark that's in you. How are you such a showrunner? How are you so gun-ho all the time? And it's like, I try to use sometimes the Incredible Hulk analogy to where, like, yeah, it's because I'm angry all the time. Well, why are you angry? And then everything comes out, and they're like, well, that's kind of fraudulent. You didn't address these issues. And it's like, well, I didn't think they mattered, and they kind of penalized for it. So I didn't get the job that I wanted because of that. Because they said that, well, it's kind of like fraudulent. You have to divulge all this information. And that just makes me wonder that maybe they were just more interested in me for results, not the reason why. So it's like, if there's something wrong with you, don't address it, don't address it, don't address it. Don't go to the doctor, don't get checked out. Don't, just put all those things in a box and that's it. And then I'm like,
if you don't go to a doctor, you don't know, so everything's fine.
Yeah, that's not how it really works, though.
Yeah, it is. Totally.
So because of that, I didn't get the job that I wanted. But I'm like, all right, fine, maybe I'll be more forthcoming. And then I was forthcoming with my first marriage. Yeah. and then that was like, well, that didn't work. So I'm like, oh, so I'm penalized for that as well. So where's this gray area? And you have to find a way to exist in this area. The whole ends justify the means, and it sucks.
That is the question of life.
But enough.
So I gotta ask, on an old school vet, where you just buckled up and dealt with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like
so much easier.
I mean, I never served or never touched, but like that sounds wrong to me. Leave it alone. If someone's good for the job, let it be good for the job. Doesn't matter what they went through.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about the fact the military is now looking into PTSD that they've dealt with before they served?
It pisses me off. Well, there's so many things wrong with modern military. So much. Between woke culture and everything. I mean, there's a few positive. I mean, there's more for PTSD, and they're looking at things. But at the same time, if you're going to narrow in on that, they just want to take those key points, and they want to find a way to block it, whether it's through beta blockers or anything like that. There's a lot of, like, they'll throw medical conditions at us all they want. But at the end of the day, you still can't get help as you transition out, I feel.
Still can't.
Can't. No, because then once they put a label on you, that's it.
They used you. They're good.
Yeah, they're good. They're good. So you become a statistic, and that's it. Thank you. Please come again. Or not, and they just kind of separate you entirely. So moving forward, we just have to... I always felt like we still have to conquer our own demons. That's still the mentality that I'm trying to do with, because I'm existing in a weird age to where like serving in the 90s, 2000s, 2010, and then getting out is such a different time. I feel like I can still relate to non-vets, but I can't relate to anyone who served before that. And it's hard for me to relate to people that have come after, because they're a bit more desensitized, but also everyone's carrying around the phone. Everyone is doing these things, and it's like, we were trailblazers before that.
Well, I heard an interesting thing the other day that kind of makes me think is what you're just saying there is you can relate to non-vets, but you can't relate to previous and you can't relate to after.
Yes.
The thing I heard the other day was that World War II ended.
Yeah.
Everybody got on a ship, everybody
Yep.
got on a vessel,
Yep.
and they went home together.
Yeah.
And they had 3-4 days on a vessel with their boys
Yeah.
to go, holy fuck, you remember that?
Yeah.
That was messed up. But when they left Nam, they were alone.
Yeah.
It was, yeah, he served. I've never seen that guy before.
No, exactly.
And you
But
couldn't,
also think about the cultural difference when coming back home from Vietnam. There was a whole shift of anti-war
Yeah.
true.
from the culture itself. So coming home, you weren't even proud of your service at that point, and it was such a different period for them that when they come back home, it's like, well, what did we serve for?
Right.
But they have that now as well. You have woke culture right now that is waving certain flags around of certain organizations, and they're like, yeah. And I'm like, do you not know what they did? You know, without any provocation. But we can go back and say, oh, the provocation is justified. We try to use picking and choosing a reason to justify the end result.
Yeah.
The end result is people die. And me, a part of me is so cold-blooded, I could say I don't care. But then me as a father, me as trying to do the right thing and raise a family is like, that's messed up. And then I can empathize to a degree, but then once you start naming histories and who's, you know, provoking whom, it makes you want to turn on your own people, so to speak. And that's what's happening almost everywhere. But like, back to the gist of what this is, I feel like before we can do anything globally, we need to address the things at home. We need to address the things within ourselves first and foremost. And that's what I hope, you know, moving forward, we can convey. You know, the old saying, you know, the hardest victory is the victory over oneself. We need to focus on that, our own and our battle buddies, before we worry about, you know,
What's happening
politics.
externally? Yeah.
Exactly.
So before we dive into that politic, we're going to throw that question back at you, buddy. What's your low point?
That's a
3, 4, 5.
pretty loaded question.
Just get close to the mic there.
Yeah, that's hard to say. I think give a bit of backstory on it here. My wife and I have been going through some difficult times before we were married. Had our first kid pretty young.
How young?
I had just turned 20.
Okay.
Just
She was 19?
almost 19. Yeah, so very young, fresh out of high school. No idea what I was doing with my life. Not a clue. Kind of said, well, I got to do something with my life. I got to make some money. I got to provide. So I went and got a job. Well, another job. I already had a couple jobs at that point. So quit 2 jobs. Ended up getting into towing. And when we were as young as we were, having our first kid, it was really difficult to say the least. You know, had our battles, had our differences. Young and dumb, let's be honest. That's all we were.
Yeah.
Couple years go by. Moved out to another company in the valley. Things went awesome there. She was still at home trying to finish off school while I was trying to, you know, I was about 45 minutes to an hour away from her, trying to provide, make a living so we could, you know.
Being a grunt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, things ended up falling apart at the company management-wise and changed companies, moved back to the city. And her and I had a big fallout at that point. And for a while, I thought this was my lowest point. Her and I split, and weren't talking, weren't seeing each other, nothing. She told me she was pregnant with her second. I was excited about it, but I was also kind of pretty confused. You know, I was like, is this even mine? I don't even know. I don't know what I'm doing.
And
It's a hard
that
question.
happens so much in relationships where you think you've hit a line, you're like, we're gonna break. It is what it is, and then you get that call.
Yeah. And at that moment, we were like, hey, I was struggling mentally with a lot of different stuff from my childhood and whatnot. And I really had no idea where I was going. I ended up moving to Mundy's where I was working.
And not just childhood stuff, but like 20 is, you're still baby.
Absolutely.
And I mean, at 20, you don't think that, right?
Yeah.
But the shit you had to see at that job.
Man, I mean, the short stint I was working for one company, I was there for a little over 3 months, and just besides the truck that I was driving and the shift I worked, and my mom was working in healthcare, specifically in NICU, neonatal intensive care unit, IC for babies. She brought home a lot of stories, told me all these stories about kids that incredibly sick, they don't make it.
I love this. Sorry to interrupt you, but the fact that I point out a trauma in a grunt and he deflects to, yeah, but this person had it worse because they dealt with babies.
Yeah.
You were 20 years old picking dead bodies off the ground.
You're right, and that's kind of where I'm getting to. My mom raised me, in a sense, not just my mom, sorry, my dad included, but my mom more so that, your time in life comes. You're guaranteed 2 things in life. You're going to live and you're going to die. That's the only thing you're guaranteed. So working the shift I worked, the truck I was driving, and the location I was working at, the company was growing massively, but they didn't have people that were willing to go and deal with these fatal car accidents. So in the 3.5, 4 months I was there, I cleaned up about 90 fatal accidents.
Wow.
90. Yeah. It's pretty intense.
And from some of the pictures, some of the worst ones I've seen.
Wow.
Yeah, they were pretty gruesome. There were some really...
At 20 years old, where he's just developing this new life and new world and trying to figure out how to be a dad while he's separated and all this, he's still got to pick up a body and then go home and be a father.
Yeah.
Be there for my kid.
And
provide. So a couple months went on, and I moved companies. I didn't like the way that one company ran with the management that was there. Moved to a much better company that I was very, very happy with.
And this is why you're still split up.
This is what we're still split up, yeah. And I started this new company. One dude that's training was a complete idiot, to be honest. And he got me in this group chat. That's kind of how I met Dave. Well, I left this light bar on a car, like hour from where I was working. I was pissed. This was like $500 or something like that, and I didn't make a lot of money. And buying one of those was a big deal then, for me, anyways. And messaged in this group chat, Dave, like, I know you're in the area. You able to swing by and grab this for me? So he grabbed it, passed it to another guy I worked with, who then passed it back to me. And that's where him and I kind of started getting this.
Oh, hey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This guy's all right. Never met him face to face. No, him and I talked back and forth in this group chat we had for a long time.
Tried to put you in it there, Squatch, but you were an asshole.
No, I had Trevor get in my head that we were too good for everybody else.
So I'm fighting mentally really hard. My wife and I are going through court battles and whatnot. And he had just started working at the company I was working at. I gave him a couple days of training at that point. And then he was out on his own. He already had been running a truck, knew what he was doing, just had to learn the paperwork and learn the style of the company. And this was my lowest point right here. I was on my way home one night, and you haven't even heard this yet. I was coming over one of the major bridges in Lower Mainland, and, I was struggling pretty hard. I didn't really realize it. And I remember I was driving the truck that I was driving, and I just let off the throttle, and the jake brake kicked over, and I'm slowing right down. And the speed limit on the highway is like 90 or 100 in that area. And I slowed down to 30. And I remember almost coming to a stop in the middle of the bridge deck and thinking, time to go for a jump.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know what it was, something kicked in. And I just said to myself, no, I gotta keep driving. I can't stop. Can't leave the company truck here. Why is that? Of all things, why is that the thing that stopped me, And
Because we can't put other people through our shit.
Exactly. But back up for a moment. You had a moment, you were going over the bridge. What was your clarity of thought, if you can recall? Like, what brought you to that moment?
There was nothing crazy that happened that day in particular that kind of made me feel like I was spiraling, or it was just...
It was a pretty bridge.
It was the opportunity, like you said, the brakes released, his engine brake kicked in, he slowed down, and he went, I'm already slowing down.
Yeah.
I've had that feeling.
There's no thought process throughout the day of it. You know, no intention previously. I mean, looking back on it now, I know I was like in a really dark hole at that point.
It's an intrusive.
Absolutely.
And almost
Because
won.
then your intrusive thought starts becoming justified.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there's just
Yeah, so I got home that night, and he had just gotten put onto his schedule. So he was on his 2 days off. Middle of the work week, I don't know, it was a Wednesday or a Thursday or something like that. And I called him, I said, hey, what are you doing? He's like, not much, just sitting at home, having a couple drinks, playing some games. I said, mind if I swing by? He's like, yeah, sure. Sent me his address, went over, and we were like, I think it was like 3 or 4 nights in a row I went over to this place. And we just,
That was when we like first hung out.
that was our first time hanging out, yeah.
And you didn't say shit.
Fucking thing.
Didn't mention nothing. Just needed somebody.
I just needed somebody that just wanted to hang out, just wanted to sit down and talk and get past the day struggles and forget about the mental struggle I was already dealing with, right? And that's kind of when our real friendship took off. I just finished training you, and I barely even knew you at that point. I was like, I need someone I could talk to, and he was my guy. That was easily my darkest moment, and he's the one that started helping pulling me out of the ground without even realizing it, just by calling every day. How you doing? What's going on? How's life? You know, and until today, he really hadn't.
No, we
heard
talked
about
about that
this.
too. So yeah, we slightly mentioned it, but
But
because we were both comparing stories of the bridge.
yeah,
If you remember, I was talking about poor man.
yeah.
So to reflect back earlier on that note is, don't be afraid to make a phone call.
No,
You don't have to say shit. Just let's hang out.
Yeah,
And a lot of men, as we say, old school or not, don't want to admit to things and don't want to say burden other people with their shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's totally fine. I get where the heart is on not wanting to burden people or feel like you are a burden is a better phrase, because you're not. And to reach out and just say, hey man, let's hang out. No one needs to know your shit. That's fine. And if you want to express your shit, express it.
Yeah.
But if you just want to hang out, make that phone call. People will hang out. And if you think you don't have anybody, like you said, we just met. We just finished training. I just started driving my own truck. We barely knew each other. It was, 3 days? 10-hour shifts together?
I think it was 4 days, and then you
3
were
or 4 days, yeah.
yeah, because we had to express you through.
And, but my point, even if you don't know the guy that well, just make a phone call.
Yeah.
Hang
I
out.
just kind of had to go somewhere and, you know, turn my brain off, forget about everything, reset, and just try and find a bit of a happier place within myself. And he helped me turn that around. And then, I eventually realized how deep of a hole I was in. And I was talking with my dad about it. And him and I aren't really close like that. And I said, I'm really struggling. I don't know what to do. I'm having this really hard time. I'm like ready to give up. And he said, why don't you go talk to somebody? And I'm like, why don't I talk to somebody? What am I going to talk to somebody about, right? Like, what am I going to do? He's like,
that was $150. We'll see you next week.
yeah. And I said, you know what? Maybe I'll give it a try. So I went and talked to this counselor dude. And he's like, I don't do single people. I only do couples. And I'm like, well, man.
You have enough personality and enough in you that he can fill both.
Yeah.
It's called bipolar.
Yeah. So I went and saw this guy, realized I was struggling, kind of climbed myself out of this hole, and him and I just became better and better friends. And then he said, a few years went by. He goes, hey, man, I went to Airsoft. You want to come try it out? And I was like, hell yeah, let's go.
Nice.
No idea what I was getting into. Went and bought a set, startup set there from another friend. Startup. From a buddy of ours, and we came here for our first round, and it was the day that BC flooded. We lost all the bridges on the Coquihalla, the Fraser Canyon.
Oh, wow.
That day that everything flooded out was our first day here, and there's maybe 20 people, and we were just soaked within 10 minutes. And
Played every single game that day.
Yeah.
Nice.
Went on the field for our last game. My gun shorted right out.
Oh, wow.
Couldn't even do anything. But, having Dave as the buddy that I've had for the last, 8 years now. Without him even realizing, he's pulled me through so many different ditches and struggles that I've faced and whatnot.
Literally and physically.
Literally and physically, yes.
You pulled each other out of some ditches.
Absolutely. So.
And now, like, you're entering another chapter in your life right now, where there's going to be some changes. Like, how are you coping with that? Like, what's going on now?
So, we're myself and family are looking at moving, and I don't know. For me, it's a bit of a struggle that I'm losing, someone I've been super close with, but at the same time,
Phone calls, buddy.
that's exactly it. Phone call away, a few hours away. Mm-hmm. We can still live a pretty normal life. We don't have to literally see each other face to face, but it's still someone I can call, talk to. And again, day trip on the weekend to come on down and
Exactly.
and see 'em.
Exactly.
But airsoft has been a hobby that I fell in love with really quick, and I dumped way too much money into it to have to give it up. But unfortunately, we're moving. It's just there's nothing close by. So
Right. Yeah.
and I don't think personally for me playing airsoft without Dave, I don't think it'd be the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've just had this bond since the day we actually hung out and met, and I trained him for the first day. That we don't even have to say a word to each other. We just literally think exactly the same.
Right. Right.
And,
Well, when you work in close proximity, you get that sense of camaraderie.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for me, like, airsoft is what allowed me, I guess, to come back out, because when I first moved up here, I was like, that chapter of my life and that a huge aspect of my identity no longer exists, but it's still there below the surface, and it needs to have its fix. It needs to have its purpose.
Yeah.
And I think as men, or even anyone, for example, that's going through these trials and tribulations in life, you need to find your purpose. If you don't have your purpose, you need to find a hobby that brings you some joy, to get that creativity, to get that anger and frustration out.
Absolutely.
And if you didn't have it, like, if I didn't have this, I would probably be in a dark place, because you're very closed in. You don't have that expression.
Exactly.
And that's what's hard. But at the same time, we have a safe space to express ourselves in that aspect. And think about people that are going through, various forms of like identity crisis, or don't know how to convey how they're feeling, or have that ability to express themselves. Like, what are they going through? I can't even fathom. And then I look at the younger generation today. They're trying to find their place in life. But that's good. Airsoft has fulfilled that for you. How much money have you put in this hobby?
I don't even want to say numbers. for single family income. Now I've got a family of 4.
Right.
Living in one of the most expensive places.
Yeah.
To live, to survive, for groceries, for
absolutely,
fuel. I mean, everything is
every aspect. Yeah.
And again, single income, and I work a lot of hours to be able to pay for all of our stuff and everything else. Well, in a very short time, I quickly racked up $15,000 plus.
Wow.
In gear and guns.
Wow.
And that doesn't count the games. That doesn't count picking up BBs for the games. That's not gas. That's just hardware.
And then to and from the field, Yeah.
So I definitely went overboard.
Yeah.
But
at the same time, the mental health benefit from doing something like this.
The one thing, my wife was like, "Is this really all necessary?" I'm like, "Yeah, totally it is." But one of the biggest things that came from it was actually priceless. Once you have a gun, you can go out and play.
Yeah.
For me, you show up and sure you have your guys you normally play with.
Yeah.
But you get separated quick.
Yes.
You die, you go down, you respawn, you come back up.
Yes.
And you're not with your boys anymore.
Right.
You're with 2 random dudes you've never met before.
Exactly.
You're like, let's go.
Exactly.
You get that team feeling really quick.
Yeah.
Here at the field, and having the ability to just trust the guy beside you.
Exactly.
And communicate with them over the simplest of things, right?
See, at least in that aspect, you can be in that moment and have that, and it's not to have something so detrimental be the effect afterwards. So that's why I think that's good in the sport of airsoft or paintball, what have you. because the end result is, oh, it's just a game.
Yeah.
When it comes to real life, if we could only take a little bit of that and put it towards real life and have that mindset, I think we would be better people for
Couldn't
it.
agree more.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I feel like a lot of workplaces don't focus on the team anymore.
Oh,
you know?
yeah. No, it's their bottom line.
It's the bottom line. It's come down to
Yeah.
the bottom line and where they put their money in and
Yeah.
what they get out of it. And they're doing a lot of things to try and up productivity. But I mean, if I was a boss, if I was owner, if I was a manager, something like that, if I had some sort of actual say, I want to try and get back company sports.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
a hockey team, you know,
expensive.
whatever.
Yeah.
But it's something for the company to get for their employees to have that bond
Yeah.
and, you know, get to know one another outside of the office, outside of the truck, outside of the construction site, whatever.
I'm pushing dispatchers to come play airsoft.
I mean, it's something that's crucial. You got to find something for your employees to,
Yeah. Some form of team building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and not in the way that it's like, all right, guys, this is what we're doing. This is how we're doing. Everybody do this. You know,
Yeah.
You're not making a project. You're going to have fun. You're having a
Yeah.
laugh. You're having
Yeah.
jokes. You're having
Yeah.
a good time. You know, that will boost the company morale. My opinion,
Yeah.
more than buying pizza on a Friday.
I'd be really interested in a statistic of like how many people find that their jobs are now like at the lowest when it comes to morale. I think COVID really changed perspectives, but at the same time, it's also opened certain industries. It's allowed you to work from home for some people, or some people who are essential services were allowed to still conduct business because, you know, they worked by themselves. But you have to still contend with all that mentally, and I think it was just a huge global shock.
Now, hear me out here. I think having the ability to work from home from a lot of people is actually super detrimental to their mental health.
Yes.
You are
business
in
development.
your house. You don't leave your house to go to work, to
Okay.
communicate with people outside that box that you live in. You don't get to see, you know, the people you share cubicles with or you know, someone that you work with on a regular basis anymore. It's secluded so many people that I think that's
A real
We're gonna see.
under-realized thing that people forget about is the decompression commute.
yeah.
The
Yeah.
listening to music for an hour before you get home,
Yes.
thinking
Not
about
saying,
your day.
Not
Yeah.
saying a word. Just
Yeah.
sitting there cruising home. Just
Yeah.
having
Yeah.
that bit of time is
Critical. Like Dakota just moved Chilliwack
Yeah.
for like an hour. And he's like, dude, it's actually better than living closer. Because by the time I get home, all the BS from the day is done.
It's worn away.
Yeah.
And I'm
Where
sure for
like
him-
I have a 5-minute commute. I'm still by the time
Going
I
to
get
work,
home.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure for him also coming in the morning, he's got the time to sit back, have that cup of coffee, enjoy some tunes, really get prepared for the day,
Yeah.
right? Eat breakfast on the go, whatever you do, right? But
I've
I
worked
think-
from home from sales and getting out of your bed and going from your bed to your desk 20 feet away. It's a bloody hard thing to
Short
get motivated
commute, but you have to like quickly have that transition.
Yeah.
and to really push
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
Of, oh, well, I'll start work, but those dishes are bothering me. Let me
Yeah.
bring those off. Oh, well, now it's lunchtime. Let me cook some. Oh, more dishes. Oh, all of a
Yeah.
sudden, oh, I've only made 5 phone calls today. Or if I was in the office, I'd be at 25 by now.
Yeah.
Blessing and a curse for those that have family at home and can't afford the daycare.
it's
Wicked. Yes, thank God, because everything is in BC is expensive enough. We won't even touch on daycare.
I can't even afford to have my wife go to work and put our
No,
kids in
pointless.
daycare. If my wife goes to work, I have to pay for her to go to work because daycare will eat us alive.
Yeah.
You know,
Even with my one, that was a discussion with her before she vanished.
Yeah.
Was she wanted to go back to work, and I was like, "But I'm now going to pay out of pocket for you to go to work,
Yeah.
so that we can put her son in daycare." Which means everything you make at work plus what I make at work is now down the drain.
yeah.
And I understand where she was at, where she just needed
Mentally
that.
needed the
I
escape.
needed to go to work. I need battle buddies. I needed coworkers. I needed not you and not my kid.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally get. But in BC,
It's not.
That's not feasible.
It's
Nope.
not. There is nothing feasible at the
Unless
end
you
of the day.
run the daycare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or be like him and pop out enough kids to have a daycare.
Wow.
How many do you have?
We have 4. We just had a 4th.
Wow. Not quite enough for a hockey string yet.
No.
Close.
What you had is 2 gigantic dogs.
Hey.
So building on that and moving forward and having your battle buddies in that Reliance system, how is your mental health? Like, how is it going?
You know,
Day by day, moment by moment, of course.
there's definitely good days and bad days.
Yeah.
What, just last weekend? Last weekend or weekend before?
Last week.
I
It was you the weekend before.
Right.
I called him
Exactly.
up and called Dave up and I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm just throwing some junk out, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you want some help? He's like, sure. Brought a
Ain't
couple
gonna
drinks
say no.
over. And just, I mean, I don't even know how much we got accomplished. Probably next to
Zero.
nothing. I think we did a couple little things, but all we did was just sit down and we just talked and caught up and
Yeah.
had no real point to what we were doing. We were just
Right.
hanging out.
Sometimes you just need to exist in that moment.
Yeah, and we talked the next day, and we're like, well, he messaged me right before I was going to message him and be like, man, thanks for yesterday. I needed that more than I realized.
Yeah.
And we both said, like, we didn't do anything, but it was probably the most refreshing thing we both could have done at that time
We
period.
forced a board game at the end for the last 20 minutes
Yeah.
before your wife picked you up just
Yeah.
to tell her we played a board
Yeah.
game.
Nice.
But, again, when you feel those days where you're like, feeling beat down, you gotta find something to change it up a bit.
Yeah.
Get out of that routine sometimes.
And again, I'm going to push for the umpteenth time this cast. Make the phone call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make multiple phone calls. If the
Absolutely.
first person's busy, that's life. That happens and people have things to do for sure. Make the next phone call to your next guy.
Yeah.
Someone will be free.
Yeah.
Someone will do something when you need it.
Yeah.
Or if everybody's busy, you call that first guy back and go, hey, man, I need it.
Yeah.
And they'll understand. Like Graham said earlier, there's just something different in that phone call.
Yeah.
And they'll
Yeah.
show up.
Yeah.
But making that phone call is the hardest part as us men to just say, hey, what's going on? And again, you didn't say shit. It was just, let's hang out.
Let's do something.
So before we do the next segment, we're going to take a short break and use that time to call that person. Just reach out. Say hello. We're going to take a short break. And we're back. So this is Charging Forward Motivation. Where do you find it? Where's that spark and drive? And what is your driving force? Then we get to the meat of the conversation, and something that I always find that in order for you to charge forward, you need to have a particular mindset, that go-getter attitude, that gun-ho driving it forward. And it's hard to find because for me, as I mentioned with my defining moments, I wanted to continue on in life and be a protector, be the person who saw injustice done and to do something about it, not to sit back with my phone recording something being committed, but not to be afraid to jump in there and do something about it. So my question for the panel essentially is, have you encountered that? What have you done? And what, I guess, translates into that, and what brought you to that moment?
I think you can just put it simply as just being the best version of yourself every day, but also being
how?
Personally, I like to see is there's not enough kindness in this world. So if I can take a moment to offer someone around me kindness, stranger, someone struggling with something, somebody struggling with groceries or reaching for something, or just giving somebody a random compliment, you just look amazing. And sometimes I look at it the way as I'm feeling depressed. I don't want someone else feeling what I'm feeling. I'm going to give a compliment. Because I feel like right now, world is just so dark and there's just not enough positivity. So I'm going to be overly positive. So for driving, if I see a driver,
Paid by the hour.
But if I legitimately see a company vehicle make a good lane change in front of a loaded dump truck, they make a good waited for the traffic instead of ramming their car in there, I'll call the company. I'm like, hey, I just want to say a kudos to this driver. He was very responsive in traffic. He missed this incident. He had really good presence of just lane presence around big vehicles. Just something positive, because a lot of companies you call and you tell them this, and they go, we've never received a positive compliment from one of our drivers.
Yeah, exactly.
We've never.
Because they get all my phone calls.
Exactly. So there's so much negativity, even in customer service. Like, we never heard anything positive.
Yeah.
Well,
it's always
as a
complaints.
driver, when someone says, hey, yeah, no, your driver did a great job, of kudos, just hearing that, you did a good job. And I feel a lot of times I mirror what I want. And so a lot of times I try to just nope, today's Friday, today's a good day, I'm still alive, still breathing, I'm going to be positive. Because it's like when you're playing a video game, you're looking for something. When you're looking for it, you'll never find it.
Right.
But when you stop looking for it or you change your mindset, you start seeing it everywhere. But if you're always in the negative mindset, my life sucks, this all sucks, then you look for reasons to be mad.
Yeah, and you're not offering yourself solutions.
Exactly. You're not self-regulating. You're allowing yourself to just keep getting down. And it's hard to see that. But once you change that mindset, so for me, it's something I force myself to do. I'll get into that negative. I'm spiteful. I get cunty. And then I have to
Just a bit.
Yeah, I have to tell myself, tell myself what's positive, or go through my checklist.
And that's what we're for.
Yeah.
When we're on the phone, how many times do we go, hey,
Yeah.
stop. Did that person just cut you off? Well, no. So why are you mad?
Yeah.
Chill. Are you paid by the hour? You're paid 30 cents,
50 cents.
50 cents a minute to be sitting in that traffic. Be happy about it. I'm
Yeah.
making commission over here.
Yeah.
And again, to push forward that battle buddy mentality,
Brute honesty.
it can help to just, hey, snap out of it, man.
Yeah.
You're being stupid for being stupid.
Catch yourself,
Stop it.
or catch someone before they put themselves in a bad mood.
But
a
also
bad place.
don't look for it to be calling and pointing out. Just, hey man, you're being a bit of a twat.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Take it as it is.
Is this a reason? Is there something that's happened? Is there something going on? Because a lot of people hurt people. Everybody is mad. Everybody's
Right.
they're hurt. Everybody's hurting. But if I can just be that one person, I think it was a movie many years ago. Is if you did one nice act for 7 different people, and those 7 different people did a nice act for 7 more people, kindness can go so much further.
Is that Bruce Almighty?
No, it was with that kid from Signs, the I See Dead People thing.
Yeah.
But it was just, the world needs more kindness, and that brings me happiness if I can just brighten someone else's day. And it helps me get into a mental hey, I'm going to attack the day. I'm going to be a better husband. I'm going to be a better father. I'm going to be my best version at work. I'm going to give my 100% to my company, not worry about wage or being underpaid or anything like this. Giving my best version to what I'm to do. Focusing on the things I can control and trying to forget the things I can't. Yeah. I can control who I am. I can control how I treat people. I can control how hard I work. These are all things, and it's, as a person with anxiety, you constantly think about shit you can't handle. I can't handle fuel prices.
Yeah.
I can't handle what interest rates are.
Yeah.
What I can handle is how hard I work. Mm-hmm. And when I get depressed, I bury myself from work. It's not healthy. But I know just pushing to make sure that making that paycheck, it gives me purpose.
Yeah.
It
And
gives
I
me
think
drive.
that's a blue collar thing. When we feel a struggle with, finances and stuff at home and friendship, a lot of us just turn to shutting ourselves down and just working harder until there's nothing left.
Yeah.
And once
Sounds
you're
like a Grunts Perspective.
once you're just out of energy, then you go home and you have a bite to eat and you hit the pillow, right?
But it's controlling the situation. You
Yeah.
can't control how you work, and it's hard because in a world, a lot of people feel out of control.
Yeah.
You go home, and whether it be relationship issues, communication issues with your children, you don't feel control of these situations, and then it can easily turn where work is where you go for peace. Yeah. And then that becomes hard, and then when things start happening at work, and then now you don't have anywhere peaceful because you haven't addressed any of the situations. And a lot of times it's being that blunt and honest. If your friendship's not going good, you gotta be able to have friends. You can call them on their shit. And be able to call each other an asshole and disagree and everything, but you need that guy.
Told you he had a double R around Jay and he lost 40 pounds.
You're not wrong. That's the worst part, is you're not wrong. That was not the reason, but it helped. And you look
In
at
the
it,
most loving way, I said that.
like, everybody tries to say, oh, being big and that and fat and beautiful, but Lizzo's beautiful. But if you compare someone to Lizzo, and then they're like, oh, that's offensive. Well, fuck, man, quit lying to each other.
Yeah.
Just tell the fucking truth.
Yeah. Brutal
Like-
honesty.
Honesty, own your shit.
Yeah.
How many times do people look back and they look at past relationships? Oh, all my exes are crazy. Well, if they're all crazy, there's one common denominator.
You're addicted to crazy.
Yeah, or you're the crazy that brings it out.
They're so fun.
Yes.
So we got your answer on pressing forward and just being the best man you can be and add a little bit of happiness to a messed up
Being the
world
change
we
I
have.
want to see.
Being the change you want to see. That is
Yeah.
a great phrase. I appreciate that. What about you, T?
I don't know.
Paycheck.
Yeah, I mean, a paycheck. For me, it's
A grunt's life.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Dog eat
Just-
dog. It's you have to push. You have to provide. You don't have a choice. You can't.
Yeah.
Well, you got four small little pets at home.
Plus his own tapeworm.
So, like I said at the start of this, it's. I don't want to discredit what men go through or what anyone goes through, especially in today's climate and the price of everything.
Yeah.
But it is, excuse my phrasing, easier to get out of bed when you got 4 little ones relying on you. It is a lot easier.
But that's an immeasurable sense of weight.
And that's where I want to be hesitant
Yeah.
on that phrase. Is
But that's also
everyone
another
goes through their own shit.
Yeah.
So you got 4 sitting at home.
Yeah.
You got 1.5.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what's your driving force to get out of bed every day?
My driving force is to lead by example. I want him to be the best version that I ever could have been, and not forcing my issues on him, but allow him to be his own person. And it's really interesting because like I grew up in the age to where children were seen, not heard type mentality and growing up.
Hands behind your back.
Exactly.
Spoken
touch
when
with
you're
your
spoken
eyes.
to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And with him, I've allowed him to grow and be his own independent person. And even as an infant, he had a sense of humor about him that was just he had comedic timing. I was like, "Are you the ghost of like Chris Farley or something?" And he would do all different types of comedy, and he's still to this day he's allowed to be that person. And we are out in public. He says hello to everyone.
Hold on. Mad props to you for showing your emotion to your kid when they made it funny.
Yeah.
How many people don't give that child that emotional love, and that's something to be proud of.
Oh, but his kid's so funny.
But
you
again,
can't
but
not laugh.
Absolutely, but yes, some people are born with this and everything else. But
Yeah.
again, it's the traits. The first time they went for that laugh, the first time they farted and daddy
Yeah.
laughed.
Yeah.
You made it fun,
Yeah. Yeah.
dude. I wasn't fucked up trauma side right here. Only time I was allowed to fart was when I was in the bathroom. It was so fucked up, and I love it when my daughter farts or when I fart. She thinks it's fucking hilarious. But you provided that comedic space, and as they grow up, they learn comedy on a different level.
Yeah.
So like you also reacting, interacting, is giving that child so much emotional connection, love. That's huge. And a lot of people don't look at it like, oh yeah, my kid's funny. No, that kid's funny because you
Let him be.
let him
Let
be
him
funny.
be. Yeah.
Let him be
Let
him.
And a lot of times we suppress our kids from exploring and learning because we're, oh, don't do this, don't do that. And the apprehensions from how we were treated as a kid.
Yeah.
So like that's the huge change, man. You're breaking the cycle.
Yeah.
You're connecting on an emotional level with a lot of us. We didn't really have that emotional connection. It was just be man, be strong. And you never had that emotion. So it's like, be proud of that. And that's your driving force looking forward. Like, you know what? You are a good dad. You provided this space. This kid feels comfortable throwing themselves out there in a comedic way because that's a lot like public speaking.
Yeah.
A lot of times we are scared of public speaking because we are seen, not heard.
Yeah.
And I'll add, He is the funniest kid I've ever met. While being the most polite kid I've ever met also. He'll stand there with his hands behind his back waiting in turn. But when he hears a comedic point, he drops that bomb.
Oh yeah.
And then goes back to his hands behind his back. Oh, I didn't do nothing.
Yeah.
You helped create that.
So I'm going to throw a hard question for all of you
So
at this table.
sorry I interrupted.
No,
Cut
no.
Mike off there, but I just felt so
And
crazy
I'm doing
too.
it now too.
Yeah. ADHD.
You all point to your children. You all point to wake up, prove a good point. I'm going to be a good person. I'm going to do the change I want to do. I'm going to provide for my wife. I'm going to do everything I can. I'm going to give my child that opportunity to be comedic. I'm going to let them be who they are. How would you guys wake up without that every day and push forward?
I was skipping out and towing.
Okay. T?
That was
I don't even know how I would kind of move on. I mean, my whole adult life, I've had my kids, right? Like, I was still a kid when I had my kids. I don't know how to be an adult without kids. You know,
that's sort of the lost part of being a father, though. Is it's you don't know how to be a father.
Yeah.
But
Until
you're doing it right now. But it's again, you look at it. None of us know what the fuck we're doing.
Yeah.
And what about you, Mike? How would do you have an answer on how you would get out of bed without knowing?
I've been on both sides of the coin. It's hard imagining not now that you have, and it's a different type of hurt and hardness trying to drive yourself when you don't have that as well. Like I did so much soul searching post military and coming to this country and settling here, and it's there and it's not there. What is my purpose? And now that I have it, I want to keep it. And if I didn't have it, I don't know. It becomes like my friends become my family. My existence and my self-identity would be shattered. And I understand that. And I understand what you're feeling going through because I've come close to losing that. You know, like I have another child before Nolan. And, you know, things didn't work out between us. And then I left for the military and I tried to distract myself and putting myself in compromising situations to where I was like, okay, if I die, yeah, I'll never see my daughter again, but they can cash in on my life insurance.
Right, as long as that's high enough, it's all that
Exactly.
matters.
And that's how we are as men. We either provide or we put ourselves in compromising situations to where they're going to be taken care of, and we don't care what happens to us because we give and give and give. But that's encoded in our DNA. Mm-hmm. But how we live with that, how we live with those choices, that's the hardest thing because we're not taught inherently how to process that. We don't know where we're going. We don't know what we're doing moment to moment.
So,
We're taught to, you know, every creature on this planet is fight or flight. Okay, so you're having that internal struggle. You aren't present in that moment anymore because there's no reason for you to be there. So you need to find a reason. And how do you do that? I don't have that answer.
I can speak to this because I literally just went through this 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was on the verge of looking up what my life insurance covered and how to do it, what to do, and it was finally I had my mental break and I just broke down. I felt unheard, and thankfully I reached out and it was with a sister, and because we were going through a lot of similar, realizing that how much trauma we were sharing and burdening together, and was able to explain through and get off my chest where just the rational thought of like, okay, if I leave this way, family's taken care of.
Yeah.
Like, I'll give everything, I'll support everything, but if I need to leave the picture, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
No.
I want to see my kid grow up, and that's what angers, and it's hard because it's like, it seems so easy, and it's hard just finding that drive and then restarting that clock. And it's just, but again, it comes down to communication, talking. We're all fighting an internal demon battle, everything. That's just the voices in the head that talk.
Yeah.
It's the important thing is to talk. It's a huge burden to carry all that emotional energy. It's toxic to our lives. It's toxic to friendships. It's toxic to our emotions. And when you start having everything that's toxic, you're treating your body in a toxic way, everything starts breaking down. And the hardest part is it's talking, but it's important to talk. It's important to feel vulnerable. It's important to feel safe, and trying to find a safe spot to talk emotionally, but it has to be done. They don't want to say pushing your friends, but sometimes you got to keep pushing. Talk about the hard shit. And thankfully, I've finally reached out to a therapist, and again, you're sitting there making that call, and you're like, what do I do? And you just finally let it all out, and by the time you finish leaving a voicemail, you're in absolute tears. And then by the time you set an appointment, you're just, oh, it's fine, it's all good, and you've already processed the emotion, it's not that big. But now it's breaking down that first barrier to just getting to that point is so hard. Yeah. And man, I don't know about you guys, but just when you start talking to me, you can just feel your neck get the strain off your neck. Yeah. It's important to talk. Keep talking.
And thank you guys for being people that I can talk to and reach out, and even not, again, without mentioning a subject or talking about the thing that's being an issue. Just going, hey bro, need to hang out.
Let's go shoot something.
But what did I say?
Put holes in targets.
Yeah.
But I said something to Dave about a year ago, because he was just going, it was just shitty hookup, shitty relationship, shit wasn't working out. And I said to Dave, if you don't love yourself, how can you love someone else?
Because at the end of the day, it's not about loving myself. It's making sure that my boy has a life with or without me.
Absolutely.
And as we just talked about life insurance, I have a higher value being killed on the job than I do dying from a medical illness. And how many times, because the only person that is named in my life insurance is my son, how many times I've thought, fuck it, jump in front of that truck.
Yeah.
The boy will be better off. But I guess to answer your question at the start of this, how do you push forward? Is every boy needs to be able to find his man, his rock, his father, his
light.
ground,
His light.
his light, that no
he's
matter
gonna
how
know
many
it.
millions of dollars I'm worth if I get killed on the job, it doesn't mean shit if he can't find me 10 years from now.
And he's going to know what you went through. And that's the
No,
example.
he won't.
Oh.
And that's the real thing, is no child will ever know what us as parents went through. Be it me that hasn't seen him in 5 years, be it you, one child, battling with your wife on just simple shit that is normal relationship shit, be it you with 4 children and 2 massive dogs and a wife that doesn't work and a dad that lives in your house, be it you with one that's yours and one that you're there for. My apologies, we're apparently getting Uber Eats.
Zoom away from that password.
But at the same time, he may not know the struggle, but when he does find you,
And that's what I'm saying is, I guess to answer your question, my push through is to know that I, with or without him or her, I've done everything to know at the end of the day, I am here for him.
yeah.
And
But
like
also-
I said, my life insurance will pay him more than I could ever pay him. It set him up for the life that I could never necessarily give him being a working grunt. But the more important part is he has the option to reach out to somebody that
Yeah.
you were my father and I can reach out to you and I can find you.
But right there, you got to praise yourself, because you still keep doing your best.
Yeah.
You still keep getting up and going to work, even without a purpose. You are doing your best, and you got to remind yourself you're still here, man.
Yeah.
Like, you are reaching out, you are finding healthy hobbies with your life. Mind you, your diet sucks, but feeling
Take
good.
one or
you
the
gotta-
other,
yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
But mind you, your hobbies are expensive, but you're finding,
here.
You're finding like healthy ways of a hobby, of reaching out with community. You are doing what you need to do, and a lot of us forget whether it be we feel like we're not being a good parent or this, you are doing the job you need to be doing. You are being a good parent. You are being there. You are going to work. You're not some deadbeat just sitting on welfare and just like not paying his child support and everything else.
But again, and I'll just be sappy now. If you were sitting on welfare and that is all you can do, and you were struggling through every moment of life, and all you were doing is holding your shit together to stay alive for another day, in the hopes that something might pop up years from now,
Yeah.
keep on, brother.
Yeah.
Keep fucking on. It doesn't matter what you're doing as long as you're alive.
Make the call.
Don't check out early.
Don't check
Call a
out
friend.
early.
Just go for
Make
dinner.
the fucking phone call.
There's resources.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of people, especially that are in dark moments, it's you don't want to put that on someone else that's going through dark moments either. A lot of times in the working night shift, you're worried, is that set of headlights coming towards you? Have they hit their breaking point? Is this the time?
But again, I never worried because the life insurance would pay him
Yeah.
better than I could.
But you see those moments and you start getting those dopamine rushes, you start seeing the serotonin and you feel your body feel good again. And then you look back and you're like, I can't believe I thought about those moments.
Yeah.
But like, it's trying to also understand yourself. A great movie to talk about is Inside Out. Is learning your own emotion, learning what hurts, learning to understand why it's a hurt. Find what your drive is. Find a hobby. Find something. Give your life purpose.
And go outside and touch grass.
I just want to say quickly here, of all the movies you could have picked, of all the things you could have mentioned, I love.
Not Boondock Saints.
I love how that you went with a kids movie.
A Pixar.
Something that you sat down with your kid and you've watched and you've
But in the
like
day and
you've
age-
learned something from a kids movie that is teaching the kids a whole whack of stuff. It's
Shrek
also
taught me
teaching
beauty's
you-
on the inside, okay?
For you, yeah.
Keep telling yourself that.
I'm pretty sure my wife is still blind.
Well, it's generic.
But it's
genetics.
we look at mental health as it's some sort of such complicated aspect.
Just
The
make the
simple
phone call.
part is we need to listen and we need to talk.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part for a lot of people is just listening. I struggle with it too because I keep trying to interject in places I should just shut the fuck up and listen.
You're being a typical man. You're trying
Yeah.
to fix.
And exactly, and that's a lot of times, and that's we need to break mental health down to a simple thing because when you can start unloading your emotions, okay, well, what do you feel? I feel anger. Well, what is the anger? Is it frustration? Is it disappointment? Let down? You can break things down, and as soon as you start breaking things down, you start understanding, oh, this is why I hurt. This is why this part of my life sucks, and you can start hopefully retraining how your brain thinks and start looking again, changing your perspective. What are you seeing? If Tegan's always seeing like, oh fuck, oh we got to see these cars, but you got to think, Tegan, you get to sit in a cab of a truck. You're driving a truck in a beautiful city, full of retarded drivers, but you're getting paid a healthy penny.
You ain't on commission no more.
Yeah, you're getting paid on by the hour to deal with stupid people, and do it well, and not kill somebody.
Yeah.
It's appreciating the small things.
I like how you guys both brought up pay. It sounds like a weird thing, but one of the things I realized that I was struggling with was the stress and the inconsistency I was dealing with work. Towing.
Oh.
There's never been a job I've loved more in my life than that. There's never been something more physically and mentally rewarding. But the stress that comes along with that.
Anxiety of not knowing where your
Are
next
you going
toe
to
is.
make your next
But-
round of bills? Are you
But what gets you through that?
work harder, start earlier, finish later, do it because I got to do it because I got to provide
And
for my family, my
that
kids, my
anxiety
wife,
is addicting.
everything.
It's an adrenaline. It's not like this life-threatening adrenaline. It's this always. And I honestly, it sounds bad. I'm not devaluing what Mike is, but it's like when you're serving, you're in a constant anxiety of when the next battle's going to be, when the next moment's going to be. And towing's is sort of the same way. It's, will I get hit on this call? Will I make my next enough money to go home at night? It's this constant anxiety of and it turns into a dog-eat-dog world where you're constantly trying to make more money than the next guy, or you're comparing yourself to each other, and it's an addicting thing. And it took me almost a year to finally realize I hate that anxiety now. But again,
I'm sure you do once you leave.
yeah,
But it
it's-
is addicting when you're in it.
Oh yeah, but for a lot of parts, like I needed to de-stress my life. I needed to learn to become a parent. I had to remove myself and find peace in my life. I had too much stress going on, and at those moments when a lot of people get to those dark moments, and I've told Dave, I said, when was the last time you took a vacation? Because he was driving just grinding so hard, and I said, Dave, when do you get you time? Well, Dave, when do you take a vacation, and when do you take a sick day to help process a mental health day?
With my boys back home.
Yeah, and in this past year, that's where I'm so proud of Dave of how much he's grown. Is if he's not feeling 100%, he takes a day to himself.
Shh. You don't need Evan hearing
Yeah.
this.
he might be puking his guts out and stuff like that just because his guts are in a rut. But how many times have you gone to work puking your guts out, not giving 100% to the job, putting yourself
Well,
in
my
the boardroom?
100% is me showing up.
Absolutely, but it's,
And that speaks to our driving force of show up.
yeah. Well,
Be
your
who you are.
50% is some people's 100%.
Exactly.
But again, it's how much do you strain yourself when you've been pushing so hard, grinding so hard. You need a break too. And it's hard to remind yourself. It's like when you and your wife are just go constantly, just going, and you forget to take time for each other. The reason you guys became parents, like Tegan, I think that's a lot of stress. Is like, when was the last date night for just you and her? And then that's where a lot of relationship stresses come from, is because your rhythms are off. You're now on different pages. You're now on different priorities. When do you guys get time to connect, just the two of you, without the kids? And that's something that's hard to focus on. It's hard to find time. But if you want to have a healthy relationship, you guys got to connect and remember the reason why you have kids, because you guys did connect.
And for me, I'm pretty lucky with the fact that my wife understands the struggles I'm going through with having to be gone working as many hours as I do in a week to provide. She knows that everything I do is for the kids, for her, for the best of the family. And
You got a rare one.
I really did, honestly.
We call those unicorns.
No, they're a different breed.
I have a unicorn. She's awesome.
You know,
You know what that
my
means,
wife
right?
has kind of been one of
No.
The chick you call in for a threesome.
Oh, no.
Don't call your wife a unicorn, buddy.
No, she's pretty awesome. If I need to go to work and okay, honey, see you in 3 days, not a problem, I can survive. And it's just,
yeah.
she knows, she's one of those ones that just knows, hey, I got to go to work. And they go, okay,
Yeah.
what can I do to help?
That's a grunt's wife.
Yeah, a good one. For a lot of blue-collar guys, stop marrying for pussies, stop marrying for fat ones. Just go find your best one. Find a supportive one. Don't find one that's going to make you broke.
Because the strongest support system that you need, other than yourself, is at home.
Yeah. You know, my wife and I don't get as much time together as a lot of families do. A lot of couples get, simply because I do work 100 hours in a 5-day work week. Do the math. How many hours are in
When do you
5
even get
days?
time
And
to
when you
sleep?
get home,
And
your dad's there.
that's a whole other struggle. But, you know,
Can't hang out
my
with you right now.
wife, we've learned how to communicate with one another in a much better manner than we've ever been able to. We've learned how to just sit down and talk about small things, you know.
If you agree or not,
Yeah,
it's just get it out.
Yeah, taking the time to just sit down, shut the hell up, and listen to what each other has to say. You know, not that she needs to give me her 2 cents on something, but she knows that I just need to get it out. And,
That's a great aspect. That's something my wife and I did. And I said, if she starts with something, I say, hey, hold on. Are you venting or is this problem solving?
I was just
And I try to pause that with my wife, and I sound like such a dick by saying it, but because my mentality is to try to fix.
Yeah.
But sometimes
Every
she just
man's.
needs to hear, yeah, that bitch is crazy. I agree.
yeah, yeah.
That's a struggle I've been going through, is that to not just listen, but I immediately, as the person I am, protector, and the person who's gone for it, I was like, who are you mad at?
Yeah.
I have the shovels.
What can I
Let's
do?
do this.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
And
it's not.
all she's looking for is just agreeing that Karen is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Just a validation
Yeah.
of feelings.
Yeah.
And it's hard for us to forget because a lot of times our emotions don't feel validated. We forget to validate others.
Yeah.
You know, my wife, when I first decided to get into airsoft, I really had no hobbies. I was work, never took vacations, never took time off. I didn't have the ability to. I had to work to.
I had to push you like a motherfucker.
You did, and I was like right away, like I'm all for it, but like, man, like this is a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
But, she said to me, she's like, you don't have something you do for yourself. You don't have a hobby. You don't do much of anything.
Yeah.
You need to get out. You need to hang out with people. You need to let loose and have fun.
Yeah.
I think
You know,
my wife
that's
convinced me to come.
crucial.
I was thinking of not coming, and my wife's like, "No, you need to go have a day."
I was saying to my wife last night, I have a buggered knee right now, and I was like, I don't know if it's a good idea. She's like, get the hell out of here. You have this shit in the house. Put it in the car. Go there. You can take it easy as you want, or you can go hardcore as you want. Just take it easy and have fun. Embrace the day. Have fun with the boys. That's what it comes down to.
It's
That's
kind of like what
this is
David
about.
Goggins says: "Don't let your inner bitch win."
Yes.
I just want to add to just how much I appreciate you and Reach's relationship. Is the happiest day I saw you at Airsoft is when she joined. Mm-hmm. And when she got to come and run a gun.
Yeah.
Was the happiest I've seen you here. Is when your partner and your rock showed up.
Yeah.
And you got to play with her and run as a team with your wife.
And the
was
best,
the coolest moment I
the
saw
best
with
part
you
of
at
that
Airsoft.
whole day, and it was your birthday, was we played that one final round right before we had to take off, and I was using one of the guns. I went through my mags. I'm out. I went through my pistol. I'm out. It's just down to me and her, and I'm laying in a bush, and I can see her, and I'm wearing this neon green, Hawaiian shirt, and I'm staring at her, and I'm like, oh man, she can see me, but she couldn't. I kind of blend right in, and then apparently the sunlight hit my goggles, and she saw it. Boom, she picked me off, and that was like probably one of the proudest moments I've ever had at Airsoft. My wife just picked me off, right? Like, she's the final one on their team, I'm the final one on our team. It's one versus the other, and everybody's behind us just like watching this happen, watching it unfold. And having a partner that's willing to come out to see your hobby, to see what you love doing, to have that release,
What brings you happiness?
Yeah.
It's vulnerable at times too, but it's also, don't be afraid to take an interest, because a lot of times we're going like, hey, look at this. It's like, we're just like a kid just trying to show you something interesting.
Yeah.
It's maybe just Lego, maybe something simple, maybe a drawing. It's the
Look at my
creative
Hot
thing.
Wheels.
Exactly. Don't show a little interest in someone else's hobby. The reason they're showing is because they care that what your opinion is. So don't be afraid to. Oh yeah, that is pretty cool. Don't be afraid to just be your true self and stop being fake with things and just be happy.
Yeah.
Like, man, if we're playing Airsoft, this is like the nerdiest thing you can do, but. Everybody's here just being themselves.
Yeah.
Showing them true selves and being vulnerable and being in that spot. It's like, it feels emotional, but you also feel safe too, because everybody's just here living their best.
What's it been? 3 years that we've played now, Dave?
About 2.5, yeah.
2.5, 3 years. And the amount of time we've come here, the amount of different people we've played with, I've never seen any hostility. I've never seen people get heated or out of control or angry or screaming,
it's
yelling at someone.
Airsoft, so of course that happens. But even when it happens, it's a discussion and a handshake.
Yeah, exactly. It's not something that escalates. It's not something that you leave here feeling like you were just
Robbed.
Yeah, that it ruined your day or anything like
It's
that.
like going to a live event that sucked.
Yeah, at least you were there.
Yeah.
But
So we're running on a bit of time here, and we're all ADHD-tism people. So let's bring it to a wrap. Because I think this is a happy point in this deep conversation where we're all talking about the pride of our relationships and the moments we've had and how we brought each other together and whatnot. So I figure we should wrap it up on a positive note before we dive too deep again.
Yeah.
My biggest pull from this is make the fucking phone call.
Yeah.
well, just remember, you are worthy.
You
You
were
are
worthy.
strong. You're strong. You, one day at a time. Don't feel like any problem that's bugging you is not small. We all go through different stressful points of our life. Don't undervalue someone else's trauma to say your trauma is worse.
Listen.
Listen,
Yeah.
because everybody's got something.
But not
You
just
can't-
listen.
You can't just dismiss someone's small stress, because again, we have gone through bigger points in our life what may not seem big to us, but that might be someone's worst day.
Yeah.
But
See?
it's validate, care, kindness.
Listen, understand, and just don't say anything sometimes. Sometimes not saying anything is the best thing you can do. It can give that person the ability to what they got to say. And
If you don't have anything
have the
positive to say,
satisfaction.
don't say it at all, sort of thing.
Don't say anything, even if you have something positive. Let the person release.
Yeah.
Let them out.
Yeah.
Let them. Like you said, your wife wants to bitch about Karen, and you're like, excuse me, I pulled 3 dead bodies off the road today.
Yeah.
No, Karen was worse.
Yeah.
Right? Listen, absorb, understand. And again, my point, make the phone call. There are people there that you don't think that are necessarily there, but they're there.
Yeah.
Make the phone call.
It's not always a phone call.
And you're not burdening people.
Ever.
That's your hardest part, is getting over. You're not burdening people. By not making the call and going down that dark route and going the easy route, you're becoming the burden. Reach out.
Talk to somebody.
Yeah.
You know, even if it's just not even talking about what your problem is, just talking in general.
A dog.
Feeling heard. Yeah.
Talk to a dog.
Why do you think I have 3?
I know.
Because you don't like people.
Thanks, Tony.
True.
Mike?
I'd have to say, of course, my mantra is don't check out early.
Don't check it early.
Far too many people quit before they've achieved success. You have it within you. You're worth it. And who knows what's on the next horizon.
Got a support system you don't realize you have there.
Exactly.
I think you should say, don't check out, check in.
Yeah.
Well
check
said.
in on your
Absolutely.
brothers.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Make sure they're not checking out. Making sure, hey, it's been a couple weeks, man. Haven't heard from you.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when we go through a dark place, we shut people out.
Yeah.
It's all right. So not to reach out makes you actually a stronger person at the end of the day.
One of my favorite parts of that TV, that they end every segment
Yeah.
with text or call someone you served with.
Yeah.
And that doesn't matter if it's military, that doesn't matter if it's tow trucks, that doesn't matter if it's retail.
Yeah.
Reach out to somebody you served with. Everybody's struggling, everybody's fighting.
Doesn't have to
Reach
be
out.
complicated. Emoji.
Yeah, just say what's up. Hey man, let's hang out.
Yeah.
Let's have some beers. Let's not talk about shit.
Something just like you shared with me the other day. You and Tegan just sat there.
I don't even know what we talked about.
Man, I couldn't tell you.
It's just
We do it too. It's great. That was an awesome 6 hours of.
It's the best
sitting in
therapy
a
you
chair.
can get.
you
It's
just some days you just grunt so hard you forget to just slow down.
Yeah.
Let the conversation go where the conversation wants to go, and feel okay about that. Don't
100%.
force it. Let it flow naturally.
Got it. So this has been a Grunts Perspective. Motivation, charging forward. Reach out if you need it.
Keep pushing.
Keep pushing.
Stay strong. Thanks, boys. Thanks for being a part of my life.
Thank you. Weed is
Yeah.
amazing.